Hi there, welcome back to Dave's Desk Bible Basics. For the last 3 videos we've looked at Samuel, Kings and Chronicles, all books that used to be one book and now they're 2 books. And today we're going to look at Ezra and Nehemiah, that for most of its history was one book but is now 2 books, because that's the joy of looking at the Bible. And Ezra and Nehemiah are stories of 2 people who are really important in the restoring of God's people. So if you've watched the other videos, you know that God's people were in Israel and they had a king, and then the king died and the next kings weren't as popular and the nation split in 2, and the king stopped following God and the people stopped following God, and so God chastised his people, allowed them to lose the land. They were taken off into exile. But now in exile they've turned back to God, and we'll look at that a bit more in future videos. And God is allowing them under the Persian king to return back to Jerusalem. And the first of them to return out of the 2 was Ezra, and Ezra was a priest, so his sort of primary identity was as this person who stood between the people and God. And he went back and he oversaw the rebuilding of the temple, this place where the people could meet with God, and the return to right worship of God so that people could worship God properly again. And then about 15 or so years later we get the story of Nehemiah. They definitely overlapped. Ezra appears in both stories. And Nehemiah is, I guess, kind of what we might describe today as a civil servant. He's in the court of the Persian king, and he begs to be allowed to return to Jerusalem to build a wall around it. And I guess that seems slightly abstract to us now, but a city at that point without a wall was never going to be a safe place. It was always going to be vulnerable to other people coming in and raiding and taking your things. And so Nehemiah gets permission from the Persian king to rebuild a wall, to make it once more a safe place, a place where God's people can know rest. If you've watched the videos about coming into the land, God had promised them the land as a place where this wandering people could finally have rest. And so Nehemiah's service in sort of organising the people of Jerusalem to build the walls up is about the people finding rest, and also about demarcating that who are the people of God and who are those who are not the people of God. And a wall is a really good way of saying some people on one side, other people on the other. And as an overview, the 2 books, written at the same sort of time as Chronicles, which we talked about in the last video, speak of this power of being the remnant, that as God's people had turned from him and been chastised, but as soon as they turned back, he was right there running for them. If you know the story of the prodigal son, where as soon as the son decides to return home, the story sees the father running to him. And that's the story of Ezra and Nehemiah, that as soon as the people turn back to God, God is there, and he enables them to build the temple to worship him, to build the wall to be safe and at rest in his land. And I just wanted to remind us that no matter how far we may feel we've run from God, as soon as we turn back to him, he's there running to us, restoring us and giving us peace once more. Amen. I hope that's been of some encouragement to you. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.